Hello, Chris from My Stamp Lady. I'm here today with this Sale-A-Bration stamp set called Avant Garden. I'm also using this folder that I'm using to emboss. This is a fairly simple card. However, I'm doing a little bit of emboss resist, so it adds a little bit to it. So I'm starting with this piece of Whisper White cardstock. Now you can get all of the dimensions and all those supplies I've used by going to mystamplady.com and downloading the project sheet. So I'm going to start by doing some embossing, and I'm going to emboss on this Whisper White cardstock and also a sentiment on this little black cardstock. So the first thing I've done is I've brushed it with the embossing buddy because I don't want my powder to stick in the areas where I don't want it sticking, and that embossing buddy helps to prevent it. It helps to prevent it sticking to the paper where you've touched it, or from static cling, and a variety of things like that. Now it is going to be a bit difficult to see me stamp this sentiment because I do have a black background, but I am going to quickly stamp it on here. Well, actually, let's see, maybe I'll move it up above here. Okay, I'm going to move it up here. I need to go right above it though to see. By stamping directly overhead, that helps me line up my work. So that's why I moved it off camera and I stamped it off camera. Okay, so we've got that one. So let's just sprinkle our powder on and pop that off, and then you want to make sure that all of your powder is removed before you heat set, because once you heat set it, it's there. You can't get it off, but you can make sure that there's no powder sticking and use something like a fine paintbrush, or even I've used tweezers before, just something that will remove that powder. Okay, so now I need to heat set these two pieces. Because this piece is fairly small, I'm going to use a tweezer to hold it, and I will just heat set until it's shiny. You don't want to overheat or it will melt back into the paper. Okay, so these two pieces are heat set, and I'm going to pull in some of my colors that I'm going to use, and I'm going to do a watercolor wash over this white embossed image on the white paper. Sorry, lost for words there. So I'm starting out with the Watermelon Wonder. That's the first color I'm going to use. I'm going to use an aqua painter, and I've just pressed my ink pad together so that I have some ink on the inside surface, and then I'm just going to brush that over. Okay, just like this. And I am not using watercolor paper. Now, watercolor paper will give you a bit more time. It will give you a little more flexibility. I decided just to use the Whisper White paper. So I need to be a bit careful with how much water I use over that. So now I'm going to blend that into that that color. I'm going to do the Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just pressing that on there so that I can get some ink on the top. And I like to use, because I'm not using watercolor paper, I want to use a little more water, but not too much. I know that sounds a little bit difficult, but you get an idea. Because if I use too much water, it's going to just pill up my paper. But I do want my ink to be moving and flowing over that surface. Now you can see I have a bit more water there because it has kind of gone under the paper a little bit, but it will dry fairly nicely. And I've done this first so that I can give it some time to dry by the time I come to use this piece. This is the More Elegant Flower, I call it, from the Avant Garden Sale-A-Bration set. Sale-A-Bration is a promotion through Stampin' Up! Through the end of March. So if you're watching this right when it comes out, you have just a few days to get this set. If you're watching it after this, same technique will work with other sets. It's just an embossing technique with onto white paper so that the white image shows through, and then I watercolored over that. So I'm going to let that dry, and it's going to even out a bit more as that dries, and we'll move on. This is the piece here that I did the embossing on to the black cardstock, and this is going to be my sentiment. So my next step is to take this piece of Whisper White cardstock. It's the thick Whisper White cardstock, and I'm just going to emboss the card front. So I'm lining that up just like that along the edge, And then I'm going to run this through the big shot. So then when you're done, you've got this beautiful flower pattern embossed into that card front, and I'm just going to leave that like it is. Now I've taken some paper from the Carried Away. This is another Sale-A-Bration choice. It's the one that is designed to go with the hot air balloon bundle from the Occasions catalog. So I've chosen this Watermelon Wonder pattern, and I've taken let's see, these are cut to 4 1/8 by 3/4 inch wide, and I'm just going to set them a little off-centered, and I'm making a little background for my card. And then all I'm doing is just adhering those down on that card front. So this is going to leave a little space between each one, and I'm also not setting them up in a line. I'm kind of giving them a little bit of offset, so they're higher and lower. Go. I am using the fast fuse, and on that last time I used it, I forgot to do the check mark. The check mark is very important to have success with this, as far as not getting your long strings that go out. So this is what my background looks like for this card, and I've just taken the strips. This is a great way to use up any scraps that you might have. Here is my piece that is nearly dry. I'm working so quickly here. So you know what, I'm going to take a little break. I want this to be a little bit more dry before I go on. Okay, this card is fairly simple, so I had to actually wait a little while to get that to dry up. I do have a piece of basic black cardstock here to make a mat, and like I said, you can find all of the sizes and supplies I used on my blog, mystamplady.com, where I have a project sheet that you can download. It's ready to go for you to print it. So I'm just matting this with a piece of basic black cardstock. I tried it without the mat. I thought I would leave it just a little bit more, you know, just a different look without the mat. But I really did decide I needed the mat to pop that flower out from the background. Okay, so then now I'm just going to center that over my strips of paper. And then I have that sentiment that I have embossed. And nothing is raised on this card. It's a fairly simple card and a flat card, so it's going to be easy to mail. And I took that sentiment and put that right there on the front. So if you have any questions about this card I've made with the Emboss Resist with the Sale-A-Bration products, please contact me, Chris, at mystamplady.com. And you can find all the supplies in my online store at shopwithmystamplady.com. Thanks for watching.